The walls of the New York Giants draft room had witnessed countless mistakes over the past decade. Reaches for need, ignoring value, and short-sighted decisions that led to a revolving door of coaches and players. But on this night, something different was happening. After selecting Abdul Carter at 3, Joe Schoen was working the phones again. When the trade was announced, Giants moving up to select Jaxson Dart, analysts were stunned. This wasn't the Giants they had come to know. This was a team simultaneously addressing the present with Carter and the future with Dart. A team making decisions based on value rather than desperation. A team that, after years of floundering, might have finally found its way. This is the inside story of the night that could change everything for the New York Giants. Excluding 2022, the Giants' last playoff win was 13 years ago. Think about that for a moment. The league has changed completely since Eli Manning led that 2011 team to victory. Since then, the franchise became a case study of dysfunction. Cycling through quarterbacks, firing coaches, swapping general managers, nothing worked. By 2024, the franchise hit rock bottom. A 3-14 record, 10 straight losses to close the season. MetLife Stadium had more opposing fans than Giants fans by December. Owner John Mara, visibly frustrated, issued a rare public playoff mandate for the following season. Quote, "I expect to be playing meaningful football in January," he said, which everyone knew translated to, or else. The problems ran deeper than one bad season. Drafting Daniel Jones 6 overall in 2019 was supposed to solve the quarterback problem. It didn't. Handing him a massive extension after a fluke playoff appearance only made things worse. Then came the Saquon Barkley debacle. Once the face of the franchise, Barkley left for the division rival Eagles. A move Mara admitted kept him up at night. Front office instability compounded the issues. Since Jerry Reese's firing in 2017, the Giants cycled through several general managers and coaches, each with different philosophies. The roster became a mismatched collection of overpaid veterans, stopgap quarterbacks, and patchwork offensive lines. Big free agent contracts backfired. Coaches like Ben McAdoo, Pat Shurmur, and Joe Judge failed to establish any identity. At some point, dysfunction became the brand. Every offseason brought false hope. Another draft pick, another quarterback, another coaching staff. None delivered. Which is the exact reason why the 2025 draft stood as something different. A last chance for general manager Joe Schoen to prove he could fix this mess. The Giants held the number 3 overall pick in significant cap space. They had just added veterans Russell Wilson and Jameis Winston as temporary fixes at quarterback. But this draft wasn't about adding talent. It was about breaking the cycle. The stakes couldn't have been any higher. The draft would either mark the start of a real turnaround or become another chapter in a decade of disappointment. When the Giants went on the clock, the question wasn't just who would they pick, it was whether they could finally stop repeating the same mistakes. At number 3 overall, the Giants face an interesting dilemma. Quarterback Cam Ward and hybrid wide receiver cornerback Travis Hunter were already off the board, leaving them with a choice. Reach for the next best signal caller or take the best player available. They chose the latter. Penn State edge rusher Abdul Carter was the obvious pick. On paper, Carter seemed like a luxury. The Giants already had Brian Burns, Kayvon Thibodeau, and Dexter Lawrence, 3 proven pass rushers. But Carter's dominance made him impossible to pass up. His final season included 23.5 tackles for loss, 3rd best in Penn State history, and 12 sacks. Scouts praised his explosive first step and relentless motor, with one noting his ability to wreck plays before they even develop. His production and disruptive presence made him a cornerstone for the defense. But critics also questioned the logic. Why pass on a cornerback? Why take another edge rusher when there were other needs? But the Giants front office had a clear philosophy: value over desperation. General Manager Joe Schoen emphasized that you can never have enough pass rushers. With Thibodeau's injury history, Carter wasn't just redundant, he was insurance. The pick also marked a shift in strategy. Previous regimes might have panicked and reached for a shaky quarterback prospect. Instead, the Giants stuck to their board. Carter's skill set complemented the defense perfectly. His ability to bend around tackles and collapse the pocket added a new dimension to the pass rush. Pairing him with Burns, Lawrence, and Thibodeau meant opponents couldn't focus on just one player. Carter wasn't flawless, though. He needed to improve against the run, and his technique could falter when he relied too much on his athleticism. Some analysts debated whether he'd be better as a stand-up linebacker, but his ceiling was undeniable, with comparisons to Micah Parsons stemming from their shared explosiveness and versatility. For a team that had missed on too many early picks, Carter represented a disciplined, high-upside choice. His presence will allow the Giants to rotate their pass rushers, keeping them fresh late in games. More importantly, his selection signaled the front office committed to long-term building over short-term fixes. Hours later, the Giants made another move, this time far riskier and less predictable. The NFL draft had already delivered its share of surprises by the time the first round hit the 20s. The Giants, fresh off selecting Abdul at number 3, appeared to be content to wait until day 2. Then Joe Schoen got aggressive. When New York traded up to number 25, analysts scrambled to update their boards. The pick? Jaxson, Ole Miss quarterback, a name only few had connected to the Giants throughout the pre-draft process. Many mock drafts projected Dart as a day 2 selection, and the Giants quarterback room already contained 3 veterans: Russell Wilson, Jameis Winston, and Tommy DeVito. But Schoen saw something that others didn't. Dart's college resume boasted 45 starts, more than any other QB in this class. He'd thrown for over 9,000 yards with a completion percentage that improved from 62% to 65% between his sophomore and junior seasons. His tape showed rare pocket toughness, a willingness to stand in against pressure that reminded some evaluators of a young Matthew Stafford. This move created division. Critics pointed to Shedeur Sanders, still on the board and boasting more high-profile experience at Colorado. Others questioned whether trading up made sense for a player who might need to sit for multiple seasons. Trading up cost the Giants not only valuable draft capital, but also signaled a willingness to gamble on a long-term solution, a stark departure from past regimes that often sought quick fixes. Dart's ability to create outside structure stood out, with his 543 rushing yards in 2024 ranking second among Power 5 quarterbacks. Unlike some peers, he consistently extended plays without breaking structure. The contrast between Carter and Dart was striking. Carter was the safe, immediate impact pick, while Dart represented a patient gamble, with veterans Jameis Winston and Russell Wilson likely taking the bulk of the 2025 snaps. Dart could develop without immediate pressure. Schoen later told reporters, this was about thinking beyond just this season. Dart's flaws, an elongated release and occasional risky throws, were well documented, but his physical tools and steady improvement stood out. If he develops, the Giants may have found their long-term answer. If not, the cost of the gamble, while significant, wouldn't cripple the franchise. For the first time in 10 years, the Giants seemed to have a coherent, patient plan. By dawn, the narrative around the Giants had flipped. Pundits who once criticized the franchise now ranked their draft amongst the league's best. ESPN gave them an A-. An NFL Network analyst praised their ability to balance immediate impact with long-term potential. After years as the NFC East punchline, the Giants were suddenly the team everyone was talking about. This time, for all the right reasons. But can a single night rewrite decades of disappointment? Giants fans had seen this movie before. Optimism surrounded the selections of Evan Neal and Kayvon Thibodeau in 2022, and the excitement over signing Kenny Golladay was palpable. Yet, Neal battled injuries. Golladay became a free agent bust, and the team just kept losing. The same outlets now praising this draft had celebrated those moves too. What made this different? This time, the pieces seemed to fit. Abdul wasn't just a safe pick. He was a premium talent at a premium position, joining a defensive front that looked formidable. Jaxson, while raw, offered legitimate quarterback upside, something the Giants had lacked for years. Unlike past regimes that swung between short-term fixes and rushed rebuilds, Schoen appeared to have a clear, cohesive plan. He emphasized toughness and identity in his post-draft press conference, signaling a shift from patchwork rosters to a team built with purpose. But still, history loomed large. The Giants' last playoff appearance in 2022 ended in a blowout, and their 2024 collapse to 3-14 showed how quickly optimism could fade. Co-owner John Mara's ultimatum, demanding a 2025 playoff berth, definitely added pressure. A strong draft was promising, but it wouldn't matter without results. Other teams like the Jaguars in 2021 or the Browns in 2019 had similar narratives that fizzled. Could the Giants finally break the cycle? For the first time in years, this draft wasn't just about adding talent. It was about rewriting the Giants' story. Carter anchoring the defense now, Dart offering hope for the future. The question wasn't whether they'd improved. It was whether this core could finally deliver. The answer wouldn't come from draft grades. It would come when the games began. The NFC East title has eluded the Giants since 2011, back when Eli Manning still had championship-caliber football left in him. Can this draft finally change that? The answer depends on which version of the Giants show up in 2025. The offensive line still remains a glaring issue, allowing 50 sacks last year despite offseason additions. This weakness could derail the season before it even begins. But then there's the defense, a unit that could be the team's saving grace. Abdul joins Kayvon Thibodeau, Brian Burns, and Dexter Lawrence to form a pass rush that might rank among the league's best. Couple this with burgeoning star Malik Neighbors at wide receiver, and the Giants have some really solid pieces. Quarterback, however, remains a big question mark. Russell Wilson and Jameis Winston are stopgap solutions, and Jaxson Dart, while promising, is unproven. The Giants are gambling on his potential. Dart's college tape shows flashes, but so did Daniel Jones' tape. Can the Giants afford another failed QB experiment? With co-owner John Mara demanding results, the stakes couldn't be higher, and the schedule, absolutely brutal. Matchups against Patrick Mahomes, Josh Allen, and a tough NFC East slate means this team can't rely on simply outscoring opponents. If they're winning, it'll be through defense and ball control. History isn't on their side either. Since their last division title, the Giants have averaged under 6 wins per season. Promising drafts like 2022's Neil Thibodeau Hall fizzled due to injuries and stalled development. But Carter could change that. He's not just another first-round pick. He's a potential game wrecker who could elevate a pass rush that already ranked 11th in sacks last season. Will the Giants finally rise, or are they destined for another false dawn? The defense has to carry them early, giving the offense time to find its footing. The stakes are clear. Either this draft delivers, or the Giants risk another decade of irrelevance. We've seen this story before with the New York Giants. Draft optimism fading into another disappointing season. But 2025 feels different. Abdul is a potential game changer for a defense that could carry this team. Jaxson Dart, while raw, offers something the Giants haven't had in years. A quarterback prospect with real upside and time to develop. The real question is whether these changes can overcome a decade of dysfunction. As GM Joe Schoen put it, they're building with players who have, quote, a certain type of mentality. Is 2025 the year the Giants finally break the curse, or just another false dawn?